Brooks has been coming out with some wild innovation lately. They've been putting nitrogen infused foams into their shoes. They've been creating super shoes and going into higher stack foams, and they've been putting a lot more cushion in them. But Brooks has actually been innovating in one of the biggest ways possible, creating the Max line. The Max line is basically an upgraded or elevated version to that of shoes that they've already developed. There's 3 shoes that you should know about from the Max line, so here they are. But before we can get into what these 3 shoes are, please make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. It continues to support us as we put out new videos. Brooks for me hasn't always been top of the list in terms of the most exciting shoes, but I think Brooks has really brought the cool factor this time around. It's really up there with a lot of other big brands now. This isn't something I would typically be saying years ago, but now with Brooks's latest innovation of the Max line, I can truly say that they have caught up. And like I've mentioned, the Max series is essentially an upgraded or elevated and more max cushion version to that of shoes that have already been produced. And we're going to talk about 3 different shoes. We're going to talk about the Brooks Ghost, the Glycerin, and we're going to talk about the Hyperion. But we're not going to talk about the OG versions today. We're actually going to talk about their Max. So it's going to be the Brooks Ghost Max, the Brooks Hyperion Max, and the Brooks Glycerin Max, all really exciting shoes. Let's just start with the Brooks Ghost Max 2 and get into it. The Brooks Ghost Max 2 is on its second version, and it is a max cushion daily trainer. This shoe is nice and clean. It's a nice all white here. I really love it, and honestly it felt really good on foot. And like I mentioned earlier, this is a level up from that of the Brooks Ghost. I'm not actually the biggest fan of the Brooks Ghost, but if you are someone who likes the sensation and feeling of that of the Brooks Ghost and you're actually looking for something with a little bit more stack and higher cushion, this shoe is going to be a big winner for you. And that is actually where Brooks actually won my heart over with the Ghost series. I was like, I don't know if the Brooks Ghost is necessarily a shoe for me, but for the Brooks Ghost Max, this one really hit all of the things that I was looking for. The upper is similar to that of the Ghost and other Brooks shoes in its line. It's nice and comfy, it's max cushion, it's got really comfy and just plush heel collar and a really plush tongue. There is no gusset in the tongue here, but the midfoot lock still felt really good and the fit was true to size. You could tell that Brooks was really trying to put an emphasis on comfort, and with all of this padding in the upper, you could tell that that was definitely achieved. Whether it was Heather, who has a high volume foot, or Caroline with a low volume foot, they all found that this shoe fit true to size and fit well for them. This shoe fit well for me too. Across the board for most of our reviewers, this upper really accommodated their foot well, even with all the different foot shapes. And in the midsole, we have DNA Loft V3, which is a nitrogen infused midsole. And again, it's the same midsole that you can find in the Brooks Ghost. And something that isn't really talked about too often, but there is a glide roll rocker system that's in this shoe that just adds a more smooth transition to it. And that was the thing that I loved the most. This shoe was a really nice, smooth cruiser. It's not the shoe that you're gonna be picking up the pace in or running very fast in, but it is going to be that shoe that you can set on cruise control and get a ton of miles in. And for Max, these were just the ticket for his easy run days. He really enjoyed this big slab of foam, and he liked the balance between how soft and how firm it was. He says it's a shoe that he's been looking for a really long time, and he feels like he really just kind of struck gold with this one. And the drop of the shoe comes in at 6 millimeters with 39 millimeters of stack in the heel and 33 in the forefoot. Like we said, there is a ton of stack in this shoe, and with 39, it just falls under that race legal limit. Not to say that you're gonna probably go racing in this shoe, but to compare it to other super shoes, the stack is just as high. As for the outsole, it has a really nice wide stable base, and there is a ton of rubber coverage here, nice and thick, which is something you'd expect from a Brooks shoe. So overall, really nice package here from Brooks. Caroline found this shoe to be quite soft, but not so soft that her foot was sinking in and that it got trapped and you couldn't really get it back out. You know those kind of shoes that are almost a little too soft and it's almost like mushy, it's like you're running on sand? Well, this shoe has enough substance to it, she said, so that she was able to rebound back and have that nice energy return that she was looking for when she was going through her stride. She also found that the shoe was pretty flexible and there was a nice turnover when she was going through her runs. And I tend to agree with Caroline. Typically in the past, Brooks shoes haven't fit the best for me, but this shoe really turned the corner and opened my eyes a little bit more to what Brooks has been putting out there. This shoe actually feels really similar similar to another favorite of mine, which is the Nimbus 26. So if you're someone who really enjoyed the Asics Nimbus 26 and you're looking for something that feels similar in cushion and feeling, and you're looking for something that's great for walking days or running days, then the Brooks Ghost Max 2 is going to be a great pick. And the weight of this shoe comes in at 9.5 ounces or 269 grams for the women's model and 10.8 ounces or 306 grams for the men's model. And it rounds out to $150, just a little bit more than that of the Brooks Ghost. But still, it falls in line with other daily trainers out there. At $150, this shoe really packs a punch at a really good deal. Next up, we have the Brooks Glycerin Max, and this is one of the most exciting shoes of 2024, and it was the newest model to launch recently from Brooks. Brooks really made a huge effort into putting a ton of technology and effort toward this one, and you can tell it really paid off. Just from a design aesthetic and the way this shoe looks, it really stands out among the rest. This shoe is definitely a level up from that of the Brooks Glycerin, and let me tell you why. The upper is made up of a nice mesh upper. It felt really comfortable. It was nice and thick on foot. It wasn't as thick or as plush or as comfy as that of the Brooks Ghost Max, but this one is definitely engineered to be more of a nice tailored fit. The tongue and heel collar and overall fit and feel of this shoe is comfortable and really plush, similar to that of other Brooks uppers. The team and I had no issues with the lacing system, and overall we found that this shoe fit true to size. And one of our reviewers, Max, really enjoyed the look and aesthetic of this shoe. He said it's actually one of his favorite shoes of 2024, and one of his favorite parts of this shoe is actually the Brooks logo itself and how it juts out a little bit more. There's this additional piece of rubber here, you can tell from Brooks, that they've added to just really make that logo pop, and it was one of the things that he found that was just kind of elevating Brooks to that next level from a design aesthetic, and it was just had this really nice cool factor to it. The midsole of this shoe is made up of an all new midsole foam, and that is what is so exciting here, and that is DNA tuned, which is an absolutely new compound from Brooks, and it is nitrogen infused. Along with that, there is a nice glide roll rocker system here. You can actually tell that is more aggressive here in the forefoot of the shoe. It actually has a pretty stable landing through the midfoot and the heel, but again, a nice aggressive rocker in the toe. And when you step into this shoe, you can tell that the midsole actually has some really nice high sidewalls that just add a nice cradling system to the shoe. So overall, you just get this really nice feeling like your foot is sinking into like the shape of a boat. And those nice higher sidewalls just create a really nice stable ride. And Max actually found that the heel of this shoe is particularly soft and squishy. But then he found that as he was rolling his foot forward and he was kind of springing through toe off, he found that that's where he was getting most of the responsiveness. And he actually said that it was probably one of the most energetic and peppy Brooks shoes that he's ever tried on. And the drop of the shoe comes in at 6 millimeters with 45.25 in the heel and 39.25 in the toe. That is a ton of cushion and stack from Brooks. This might be one of the highest stacked running shoes from Brooks ever. And I mean, I absolutely love that about it. Just being a little bit higher off the ground, having a nice wide stable platform, a really high stack. Those are all things that I look for in a shoe and are just going to provide a really nice protective and cushioned ride. As for the outsole is made up of a nice tacky rubber system, and our team really had no issues with traction. Caroline actually found that this shoe is great for anyone who's just looking for as much cushion as possible. Like we said, with that really high stack and a really cushioned feeling like Max said, this shoe is going to bring all of the goods of a really high max cushion option. And for Max, like he said, this is going to be his new go-to daily trainer and recovery option. He found that the new DNA tuned midsole is much softer and much bouncier than that of DNA Loft V3 and the Brooks Glycerin. While he agrees that this shoe would be great for those easy days and recovery miles, it's not a shoe that he would pick to pick up the pace in or during faster workouts. And the weight of this shoe comes in at 9.5 ounces or 269 grams for the women's model and 10.5 ounces or 297 grams for the men's model. And the shoe rounds out around $200. And if you are looking for a shoe to pick up the pace in, something that's a little bit firmer, a little bit faster, and has a little bit more of an aggressive feel to it, maybe it's got a plate too, look no further than that of the Brooks Hyperion Max. And not just any Hyperion Brooks Max, but the Brooks Hyperion Max 2. This is an up-tempo daily trainer from Brooks, and it is the elevated version to that of the Hyperion. And this shoe is going to be a perfect training companion to that of the Hyperion Elite. It actually has some similar qualities in it, and it looks the same too. This shoe is going to be great for just faster and more consistent daily training miles when you need to pick up the pace a little bit more. Maybe it's a workout day or you've got some up-tempo miles in there. This shoe is going to work best for you. And you can just tell from a design aesthetic, you've got this fiery red and orange. It all speaks to speed. The upper is made up of a mesh upper. It is very lightweight. The tongue is nice and lightweight, and it is gusseted, so it's going to have a really nice midfoot lock and wrap to it. The heel collar is really comfortable, and overall a really nice thin design and aesthetic, and really lightweight. Not only that, but there is something here that I absolutely love that Brooks did, and it's this little attention to detail where they've got these laces that are actually rigid, which are going to allow for a little bit more of a locked in fit and are not going to loosen up on your run. Much like all of the other shoes that we've talked about with nitrogen infused midsoles from Brooks, this one is also nitrogen infused, but it's called DNA Flash V2. DNA Flash is actually a more aggressive, faster, and firmer version than that of DNA Loft. The drop of the shoe comes in at 6 millimeters with a midsole height of that of 30 millimeters with 24 in the forefoot and a stack height of 36 and a quarter overall in the heel and 30 and a quarter in the toe. Stack height is everything included, the outsole, the insole, and the midsole all in. So it is still going to be a bit of a lower profile ride than that of the other shoes that we've talked about. And one of our viewers, Nate, has actually tested this version and the previous version of these shoes. And he actually said that this one is just a touch softer than that of the original. Moving on to the outsole, you can actually tell that there is a thin piece of rubber in the heel and on the toe, and it's much thinner than that of the daily trainers. And you can tell that there is actually a cutout here which shows some visible technology as well. So not only are you getting a nice thin rubber and you're getting this nice cutout for weight savings, but you can tell that there's something here called a speed vault, and this speed vault here is actually a P-Bax plate, and that's where a lot of the rigidity and stability of the shoe came from, like I said, and it just adds a really nice fast moving sensation through the shoe. It actually allowed me to pick up the pace a little bit more and change paces when I wanted to. This shoe felt very customizable in a sense. It was like, I can run slow in it, I can run fast in it, but it doesn't really matter how I run in it. It just kind of blends into my stride and into my run really nicely. And the DNA Flash V2 is the best DNA Flash yet, and it is softer, a little bit faster, and more aggressive than that of the previous foam. And while this shoe is definitely on the stiffer side, if you're someone who enjoys a bit of a firmer option and you're looking for something that is a little bit more responsive and faster on foot, then I think that this one will be a good pick. Not only that, but the weight of this shoe is going to be less than that of the other two models that we talked about. So the women's model actually comes in at 8.1 ounces or 229 grams, and the men's model comes in at 9.1 ounces or 257 grams. And it comes in $20 cheaper than that of the Glycerin Max at $180. And if you're a fan of Brooks shoes or you want to learn even more about any of these shoes, we actually have full reviews here on YouTube that you can check out yourself. We've got a full review of the Hyperion, the Brooks Ghost Max 2, and of the Glycerin Max. So make sure to check all of those out right here on YouTube. But for now, what do you want to see next? Drop it in the comments below and we'll be sure to get back to you.